What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswaves. So as we work towards the end of October, we will have the Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games added to that Switch Online service, and we're still kind of hanging out waiting for details like pricing, but Nintendo did decide to release one detail a bit earlier, kind of clarifying a situation around those 64 games. We're going to go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Halo Infinite, a leak that has found its way online, going over a bit more about that Forge mode, showing 343 potentially taking this creation tool to the next level. And we're also going to be talking about a retailer in Japan who has come up with a pretty creative way to deal with PS5 scalpers. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with EA and their FIFA franchise. Very, very popular. Of course, we see it in the sales charts all the time, but we have heard from EA that they're considering renaming their FIFA franchise, which seems strange because they've spent decades building this title up, but we now have an idea maybe as to what they could be renaming it through a couple of different trademark filings. We can see this over on VGC, where they say Electronic Arts has filed multiple trademark applications for EA Sports FC, which could potentially be the new name for its FIFA football franchise, should it rebrand the series as it's currently considering. There appear to be two different filings, one on October 1st, the other one on October 4th through the European Union Intellectual Property Office. And it still seems weird to me that they would go about renaming FIFA. Like, that is such a recognizable franchise for a lot of people, to where they walk into a store and say, give me the latest FIFA game. They might not even know what year it is. They just give me the new FIFA game. I don't know if they're going to walk in and say, give me the new EA Sports FC, or give me the new FC game. It doesn't really roll off the tongue or is as recognizable. We're still trying to figure out if EA is really going to do this, and it sounds like they themselves are trying to figure that out, maybe just preparing for that possibility, and we'll keep an eye on this, see if they make any official announcement going forward. Also, we had the remasters of that Grand Theft Auto Trilogy announced, and now we're kind of waiting to hear more information as to when it's going to come out, but we do have some information around box copies hitting retail, which is pretty exciting. The fact that we would have physical copies of this trilogy. We can see this over on PPE, where they had some information saying the situation is very interesting, however, because according to the details received, GTA The Trilogy, the definitive edition, is to debut on December 7th, 2021 in a physical edition, but in a version for PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, going on to say that the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S is dated for 2022. It's very possible that a retailer got this information in their system because they would have to get pre-orders in order to get these physical copies of the game for the Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox One, and that the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S box copies wouldn't be coming till next year. The digital edition, I assume, would just launch next to this, and we'd be playing through backwards compatibility until a big update for next-gen consoles, even though they're technically current-gen now, would be delivered alongside of the box copies next year. So I guess December, first week in December? Yeah, I could see that. It certainly appears that Rockstar and Take-Two are trying to get this game out for this holiday, and yeah, if the PS5 and Xbox Series versions have to slip to next year, that's just kind of the way it is. They are fortunate we have backwards compatibility, of course, for the PS4 and the Xbox One with these newer systems. We'll just wait to find out more information. I am very happy, though, to hear that boxed copies appear to be on the table and would show up even by this holiday. Oh, and we know Monster Hunter Rise is heading to PC in January, but I have been wondering if we would see some sort of cross-save integration with the Nintendo Switch, as we have seen that with other PC games, but Capcom unfortunately had to deliver some news that wasn't great for this. We could see this over on Twitter saying, we've heard your request for cross-save, cross-play for Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, but unfortunately, after looking into it throughout the development process, we found we are unable to implement it at this time. As always, we appreciate your continued feedback and support. This feels like a massively missed opportunity. I think some people are going to look at how many hours they have in Monster Hunter on the Switch and then realize, wow, I spent like over 100 hours on the Switch version. I would like to get into the PC version, but I'd have to restart and then pour hundreds of hours back in doing what I already did on the Switch version. I think the idea of cross-save and be able to move your progression back and forth is a really cool thing to have with your PC and then going to your Switch. We've seen it with other titles like Hades, for example, and it's worked out pretty well. So I'm wondering if Capcom will be able to figure this out ahead of that big Sunbreak DLC that is coming out later in 2022. And we'll just have to keep an eye on that, but at least for now, it does not appear like it's going to be there for launch in January on PC. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch online service and a couple of systems that will be making their debut later on this month, that being the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Genesis. There was something odd that was noticed, however, in the Direct, specifically in the European region, when it was like Nintendo of Europe showing off the Direct. It appeared that the 64 games they were showing, at least the footage and the gameplay, was slowed down, and there were a lot of stories written about this. I know Nintendo Life covered it with John over on their channel, even syncing them up with other Directs and noticing, yeah, they kind of went out of sync with Nintendo's Europe Direct, kind of falling behind, and that's because it appeared they were the 50 hertz ROMs, and that seems like an odd idea or decision for Nintendo to make, considering they could just grab any ROM they wanted, I guess, from different regions, just kind of put them out there on the European eShop. Well, it does look like Nintendo has clarified this situation ahead of the other details we're still waiting to find out about, but we can see this over on Twitter from Nintendo of Europe. All Nintendo 64 games included with Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack can be played in 60 Hz English language versions. Select games will also have the option to play the original European PAL version with language options. That's probably the best way to go about that. You have essentially a toggle to go between 50 and 60 hertz, and you can decide which one you want to play. There are probably people who remember, yeah, I played this at 50 hertz, back in the 90s, and yeah, that's how I want to play it here. That's fine. But there are also a lot of people who are like, well, I guess I'll have to change regions, download the other Nintendo Switch Online, the N64 app from like the US or wherever else in order to get that 60 hertz version. It's good to see that Nintendo at least has come out here ahead of the other details and clarified and said, no, there's going to be essentially a toggle, and I guess that'll be everywhere. Like, will we be able to go into the options and say, no, we want 50 hertz? I guess if it's there for the European version, why not just put it everywhere else? The other thing I'm a little surprised about here is they didn't just put out the other information with this. You feel like this would be Nintendo Europe kind of tweeting alongside of Nintendo in general when it comes to the release date and the pricing. The fact that they still have not put out the pricing is odd, maybe slightly concerning. I mean, we're coming up on the midway point through October. These games are supposed to be dropped into the Switch Online service by the end of this month, so we potentially could be a week, maybe 2 weeks out from these games all dropping in and then us deciding if we want to upgrade. And I'm starting to get the idea that it's going to be more than a $10 edition per year. So, like, could it be $35? Could it be $40? That's the biggest thing now, is how far is Nintendo going to push the addition of Nintendo 64 and Genesis games? Really just 64 games. Like, only anyone like jumped out of their chair and said, finally, Genesis games are coming to the Switch. Obviously, Nintendo 64 games with online play is the big draw. My question is, how far will Nintendo push it, and how much money are people willing to shell out for it? Next up, let's talk about that Nintendo Switch OLED. It came out on Friday, and I have been seeing quite a few people pick the system up, and they're enjoying the OLED display. It is significantly better along with that kickstand. I'm just hoping that Nintendo then looks towards maybe the chip, like that X1 inside of the Switch, maybe with another revision, or even, who knows, a next-gen Switch in a year or two here. But something else I was curious about is how long until people are able to hack this system. Well, looks like it only took a couple of days. You can see this over on YouTube that was posted up, where it appears that a person has been able to wire up a mod chip to the board, and it does work. Like, you can hack the system, soft mod it, run homebrew and all of this. And I know people don't necessarily like when this is covered, but I mean, it's factual, it's right there. And let's be real, looking at this, I looked at the video and I said, most people are not going to be doing this. You can see how many wires were required to run all over the place, tap into different parts of the board in order to make this a reality. Like, the mod chips that are out there now are not at all set up for the new board layout that we have with this Switch OLED. Nintendo obviously did this on purpose, moved different things around, and even took that 64 gigabyte chip and just soldered it to the board. I do have a teardown coming up here pretty soon, so keep your eyes out for that. But clearly, a lot of work had to go into this with micro soldering, to the point where I would say most people are not even going to attempt this. In fact, most people who want a hacked Switch would just go back and look for the 20 million or so first generation Switch system, since, yeah, all you need is like a paper clip or even like a little jig that they sell online. They just drop in the side Joy-Con, you're off and running. It was just interesting to see how quickly this happened, because that does seem to be a thing. It's like a new system comes out, especially one that's a revision, and then you see kind of the homebrew community, the hacking community, see how long until they can jailbreak it. Same thing happens with all the different firmwares that come out for the Switch. It's like, okay, it's released. Now what do we do? How long until this can be opened up? And really, for this one, it was just a matter of making sure all the wires lined up correctly, since it's still the same X1 Mariko chip that we had in that red box Switch, just the mod chips are not set up. They probably will be eventually, but this is certainly not something that most people are even going to try. Next up, let's talk about Halo Infinite, coming up here in December, and I'm looking forward to it after playing the different flights that we've had so far, with Big Team Battle being an absolute blast. The multiplayer, certainly on point. Still have to see more about that campaign, and yeah, even Forge mode. Well, it looks like some of those leaks have continued to find their way online, this time though, around that Forge mode, and it kind of makes sense now, maybe why they had to delay Forge outside of December going into next year, because it appears that 343 could be working to take this creation tool to the next level with the release of Halo Infinite. We can see this over on Twitter. This from Halo Infinite Leaks and News. This is Forge Node Graph. So we have the first image showing edit property, but then we go to the next image, and it looks kind of like what we have with Unreal Engine almost, where it's more the visual style with boxes, or even, I guess, Game Builder Garage, where you are just kind of connecting different boxes, setting up scenarios, if-then statements, all these different things. And it just looks like you're going to be able to create all kinds of wild and crazy things here in Forge. And then I consider the fact that people on PC will have access to this, and I assume we're going to be able to share all this stuff back and forth, and clearly a lot of stuff can go wrong here with Forge mode if you're getting this in depth. We have not seen necessarily something like this node graph, so the idea that we could be getting into scripting when it comes to custom game modes is just like, wow, the possibilities would be endless here. And I've seen what people have been able to come up with a much more rudimentary Forge that we had in like Halo 3, where it first debuted. And like, the sky is the absolute limit here. This is exciting stuff for people who are into Forge and the idea of being able to build out your own game types, and who knows, maybe your own like campaigns even. There really is a lot of things that can happen here. A lot of doors are opened up with the idea of this scripting that they would be adding in. And again, Forge, them delaying it out, if it really is because they want to do something like this, I'm okay with it. Really, if that is where, like, if it was just gonna show up and just be regular Forge mode like we've had before, and it's like, okay, cool, we can make custom game modes. Yeah, I get why people would be kind of annoyed about having to wait for that, but if they legitimately show up with a Forge mode where we can continue to build some crazy things for years and years to come and share back and forth between PC and Xbox, and yeah, it's exciting stuff. So we'll keep an eye on this, because I feel like we are going to get more details around campaign here pretty soon, and then really, I guess, going into next year, more information around Forge. So we'll keep our eyes out for that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a creative way that a retailer in Japan has come up with in order to battle scalpers around the PS5 system, which continues to sell out like crazy everywhere. In Japan, we see the numbers as PS5s essentially come in, they just go right back out, and yeah, they continue to pop up on eBay and other reselling websites for much more than their MSRP or their suggested retail price of $500 or $400 for that digital edition. We can see this over on Twitter though. This post up from Gaijin Hunter saying, wow, Nojima Denki shop is so hardcore about not letting resellers get their PS5 stock. They say they will write your full name on the box at time of purchase and open/dispose of the DualShock controller box as well. Yeah, they're going some pretty serious lengths here in order to deter resellers. It goes on further to say the point of the full name is most resellers wish to be anonymous. The store requires you to use your point card account or ID. And I think so having their real name written on it is a major turnoff for resellers, I think. I would actually kind of agree with that, considering if you take like a pen and just gouge the name into the box, because the box for the PS5 or the Xbox or the Switch, you can basically write on it with a pen and just engrave the name in there. So even if you try to like wipe off the pen or even Sharpie or anything like that, it would still leave it there if you look at it in the right light. It's basically branding that box with your name. And if you decide to take the PS5 out of the box, it'll lose value. I mean, the idea you can say brand new is a big deal in the reselling market. And I mean, think about it, then your name is gonna be on that PS5 box from then forward. You might not even want to sell it, especially if it is legitimately your full name that you then just kind of pass along on eBay. I think the idea of selling a DualSense though, and then just kind of pulling the DualSense out of the box, throwing that away, and then handing it to you for the full price, might be going a little far. I mean, I don't really know, are DualSense being resold like that? Because I see them in stock everywhere. It's the PS5 that's difficult to find. So that one seems a bit out there to me. But I guess the idea of gouging someone's name into a PS5 box, if they have no intention of selling it, is a little annoying, considering it does damage, obviously, the value. Or if you are someone who does collect systems and you want to keep the box, yeah, I'd be kind of annoyed if my name was just kind of written and just like stabbed into the side of the box. But that's where we are with resellers now. It really has continued to be a situation that's just gotten out of control as we've gone along. And I'm hoping that going into 2022, especially a year from now, we can look back on this and say, wow, at least now everything's gotten caught up and we are to the point where you can walk into a store and just buy one of these systems on a whim at like $500, the suggested retail price, not like $1,000 online like we see currently. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday where I asked, which big unreleased first-person shooter are you looking forward to the most for holiday 2021? Wow, Call of Duty Vanguard, 7%, Battlefield 2042, 21%, and Halo Infinite, 72%. Wow, Call of Duty is really that low. I mean, Call of Duty was such a big deal, years and years ago, to the point where it overtook Halo. Halo was massive when it would come out, but now Call of Duty's fallen off so much, and I feel like the latest beta for Battlefield really hurt its stock. Like, I think people are looking at that and saying, woof, they might want to delay this one again. And looking at Halo with the flights, for the most part, they got better with this last one to where people are just excited for that multiplayer. So it feels like right now, everyone is dead set on Halo and kind of even looking past Call of Duty, maybe even Battlefield currently. So wow. Yeah, this holiday, Halo really might be back. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Sebastian saying, there's so much to love about Metroid Dread, but one of the most amazing things is the fluidity. Metroid has always been known for Samus fluid movements, but Dread took this to a whole other level. If you get your movements just right, it feels as fluid as water. That's something I've noticed. I know there's been a lot of talk around the price point for Metroid Dread because people look at the production of like a 2D game versus the 3D game, but some of the animations and the attention to detail when it comes to the backgrounds and just Samus herself is super impressive. That, when it comes down to the sound design going on, and it was discussed that this is a big deal from an audio standpoint for the Switch with the 5.1 surround sound. There is a lot going into this 2D game. I mean, it's really 2.5D with some of the different set pieces they have with bosses, for example. But still, there is a lot that's been poured into this game. And unfortunately, people look at it and say, well, it's 2D. It can't be this high production game. But then you really get into it and you start playing, you're like, wow, some of this stuff is really detailed. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was that latest Halo Infinite leak around Forge mode and being able to potentially script different things. Also, what about the Nintendo 64 and Nintendo clarifying the situation around 50 Hz or 60 Hz games? And then the PS5, if you went to a retailer, went up to the counter to buy one, and they started engraving your name into it, how would you feel? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.